Are you wondering why I share Quechua and Yogic teachings together, and if I'm the right guide for you? In this video, I'll share my story and how I became a guide in these traditions. Although I was born in Arlington, Virginia, and raised just outside of Washington, D.C., my family story begins in the Andes Mountains of Bolivia and Peru. My parents immigrated from Bolivia to the United States in the early 1980s. And like many children of immigrants, I grew up feeling connected to my family's Bolivian heritage, but largely disconnected from the indigenous traditions that had shaped it. As an adolescent into my late teenage years, I identified as an atheist and was largely disconnected from the spiritual traditions of my ancestral lineage. My immersion into indigenous wellness practices would not begin until I was 17 years old, while I was traveling on a Greyhound bus from Washington, D.C. to Yellow Springs, Ohio, where I was headed for an admissions interview at Antioch College. During the overnight ride, I sat next to a man who spent most of the trip quietly reading. The following morning, I finally struck up a conversation by offering him some snacks. He smiled and gently declined, saying, "I can't take food right now. I haven't done my meditation yet. I'm a monk." That response struck a deep chord in me. As we talked, I shared my hopes about attending college and shared the essays and songs that I'd written to share at my interview. He listened with genuine warmth, and before we parted, he asked me for my mailing address and invited me to attend a meditation retreat in Missouri. I can't say that I would have gone for sure without what happened next. A few weeks later, a package arrived in the mail. Inside was a book on meditation, a CD of kirtan mantra music, and information about the retreat, and contact information for a local meditation teacher. I was so moved by the kindness of this monk who I'd only met once on a bus. More than 20 years later, I still see that encounter with Acharya Dada Gananatananda Avadutta as one of the main catalysts that awakened my spiritual path. Despite several obstacles, I eventually attended the retreat in Missouri. There I learned tantric meditation and was initiated into a broader spiritual framework centered on cultivating a deep relationship with the Supreme Consciousness and the teachings of the Guru Sri Sri Anandamurti. Although Tantra was not part of my ancestral lineage, it became my first sustained experience with an indigenous-informed spiritual system. Anandamurti positioned Tantra as the indigenous tradition of the original inhabitants of India. And in my dissertation, I discuss his argument. I ended up enrolling at Antioch College. And while I was there, another important mentor entered my life, Dr. Ann Fillmyer. She became not only my academic advisor, but also one of my spiritual mentors. Through Ann, I participated in my first sweat lodge ceremony in the Anishinaabeg tradition. That ceremony was rooted in the teachings of Grandmother Kiwe Dinokwe, the Ojibwe Anishinaabeg Mashkikikwe elder, whose teachings have also influenced my understanding of indigenous wellness principles and practices. Decades later, Dr. Fillmyer became the chair of my dissertation committee during my doctoral studies at Southwestern College in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's that kind of continuity of mentorship that has profoundly enriched my life and spiritual journey. While I was attending Antioch, I also made my first pilgrimage to Peru, completing my first 4-day Inca Trail trek to Machu Picchu, and visiting many sacred sites in the Andes Mountains. That pilgrimage marked the beginning of my reconnection with my Andean ancestry. At that point, I knew I had indigenous ancestry, but I didn't understand what it all meant. When I returned to the United States, however, I did not have access to teachers within the Andean tradition. Because of that, I continued my spiritual development within the tantric lineage of Sri Sri Anandamurti, under the guidance of Acharya Dada Vishwarupananda Avadutta, who taught me meditation. And he continues to be one of my mentors until this day. Sri Sri Anandamurti's organization is called Ananda Marga, and my involvement in the organization grew into a huge commitment from my part to spiritual education and community building for the organization. In 2016, I launched this YouTube channel, originally called Tantra Thoughts, to spread Anandamurti's teachings. Over time, it grew to more than 20,000 subscribers and became a platform for sharing yogic philosophy and practice. Alongside that work, I facilitated weekly collective meditations for more than 10 years and led collective online meditations every Saturday for 3 years right here on this channel, calling our community Vistara Circle. Everything I did during that period was motivated by a desire to create accessible opportunities for spiritual practice and community building. I organized retreats, trainings, and community learning experiences. One milestone was developing and co-teaching a 200-hour Tantra Yoga teacher training between 2017 and 2018, offered in collaboration with my teacher, Dada Vishwarupananda. Then in 2018, I traveled to Bokaro, India, at the invitation of senior Indian acharyas to participate in Tattvika training, philosophy mastery training, within the Ananda Marga tradition. This advanced philosophical training prepares practitioners to become family acharyas, who are non-monastic teachers within Ananda Marga. Although I was not ultimately designated as a family acharya after the training, because at the time, candidates were required to be parents and I was not a parent yet, the experience significantly deepened both my practice and my development as an educator of yogic teachings. Throughout those years, one question always emerged in my work. How do you effectively and respectfully bring new people into an unfamiliar cosmology? That type of inquiry challenges me to be the best possible teacher I can be of indigenous lifeways to people in Western contexts. I began my PhD work in 2022. Soon after that, I traveled to Bolivia with my family to spend time with relatives and with a renewed goal of tracing my ancestral roots. One of the most meaningful experiences during that visit was organizing a conversation with my mother and several of my aunts and uncles to better understand our indigenous ancestry and why so much of it had been lost within our family. During that conversation, my uncle Javier, a retired professor of economics in Bolivia, explained that our family is Quechua. He also admitted that my grandmother's generation intentionally chose not to teach the Quechua language or pass on many of the traditions because it was believed that assimilation offered the best chance for survival and opportunity in post-colonial times. That decision was an affirmation of the colonial conquest that had displaced indigenous cultures and teachings. My uncle's frank explanation took on more clarity as I began studying with my Quechua elders in Peru in 2023, who are members of the Tito Cuntor Cosnipa Canchi Quechua lineage from Pumacanchi, Peru. Many of them shared with me that they didn't learn Spanish until they were 15 or 16 years old and had moved to the city of Cusco. In the city, they avoided speaking Quechua in public spaces because they feared being ridiculed or treated differently. Hearing those stories helped me better understand the historical forces that had shaped both my family's experience in Bolivia and the broader realities facing indigenous communities throughout the Andes. Between 2022 and 2025, I returned to the Andes multiple times, primarily to Peru, for pilgrimages and trainings, and began an apprenticeship as a Yachacha Pampa Paqo, a Quechua shaman of wisdom with Tupac Tito Cuntor, a Canchi Quechua elder who lives in Pumacanchi, Peru. I was connected to Tupac through a dear teacher and friend, Dr. Carol Parker, who was a member of my dissertation committee. Those days, I also met Dr. Grey Cajete from the Tewa Nation, who lives in Santa Clara, Pueblo, a leading scholar in indigenous studies. I decided to focus my dissertation study on Quechua insights for wellness thanks to his advice. Dr. Cajete would also serve as the reader and research consultant on my dissertation committee. When I first began my doctoral work, I thought I would center my research on wellness insights from a variety of indigenous cultures, comparing them to yogic teachings. But Dr. Cajete suggests that I begin with the teachings of my own Quechua lineage. So I have to acknowledge the contributions of so many wonderful mentors I've met throughout my journey that have profoundly inspired me to find myself and guide others responsibly. I hope the story I'm sharing provides context for how I became a spiritual teacher and why I teach Quechua and yogic teachings side by side. My role as an Andean Paqo carries an ongoing responsibility to my elders, my ancestors, and my lineage to represent these teachings with integrity and respect. For more than 20 years, I've also lived and breathed the yogic teachings of Anandamurti. Walking both of these paths has given me a really unique window into two incredible worlds. Also, the decision to practice and share yogic teachings along with Quechua teachings required guidance, ceremonial protocol, and permission from elders in both traditions. In addition, my spiritual teaching is enhanced by my experience in Western academia. My experience as a college professor going back 20 years has shaped my ability to communicate indigenous knowledge in ways that are accessible to Western audiences. And rather than seeing these identities as separate, I understand them as interconnected. They position me as a bridge between indigenous and Western knowledge systems. So I want to invite you to go on a journey with me, deepening your spiritual life, either through shamanic coaching, integrating Quechua and yogic lifeways, or learning about these traditions separately with my help. I also offer higher purpose coaching through the teachings of my new book, Stuck in Yesterday, Visionary Practices for Building a Purposeful Future, released in 2026. Finally, you are also invited to come with me for shamanic treks or retreats in the Andes Mountains of Peru. It's an honor for me to share what I've learned and to connect with seekers like you who are as passionate about spiritual life and practice as I am. Below is the link for the contact form on my website. Contact me to work together, in person or online, to travel to Peru together, or to read my new book. And I want to thank you so much for being here. Tupananchiskama. Namaskar.